welcome back to another episode of Ladies. This is an unfiltered podcast on real, raw subjects because it's our time, and y'all know I believe that we've got to be ready. There's no such thing as getting ready. You need to be ready. I'm excited and happy to help you live your best lives now as respectable and respectful women, because modesty, class, and grace is always right and in style. And today, you guys, have a special guest with me, and we're going to be talking about the Fantasia interview from September of last year. There was a lot of controversy online about it, and if you don't know, it's out there. It's on YouTube. She did one on Breakfast Club, but then also there was like a 6-minute video of her and her husband, and he dropped some golden nuggets. But folks felt some type of way. So first, I'm going to let Miss Deborah Warren introduce herself, tell you a little bit about her, and y'all gonna see why I asked her on to talk about this interview. She hadn't heard about it till I told her. She was just like, "Oh my God, this is everything." So tell the people about yourself, and we're gonna get into it after that.
Okay. Good morning, Dr. H. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I am Deborah Warren for your listeners. I am co-host of a podcast called Sister Girls Chat. And we also have a Facebook group on Facebook called Sisters in Christ, Girlfriends in Life. And so I am also a life coach and trying to coach those faith-filled women to success, teaching them how to walk the walk of faith and just use everything that God has given them in His Word, use biblical principles for their success, either personal success, business success, or whatever. Right. And so I am so elated to be on this show talking about this topic because with our podcast, Sister Girls Chat, we have actually done this topic last year. I did not know about the Fantasia interview. And so when you shared it with me, I was elated to hear it. And so I am just like chomping at the bit to have this discussion. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, I think part of the challenge with the interview, if y'all don't know about it, let me lay some foundation for you, is the reason there was a lot of controversy around the interview and comments about it. It was about she was basically sharing about the role of women in relationships, and people took what she said completely out of context, but men and women alike, they jumped on the bandwagon. They had lots of things to say, especially the men. Men got on the bandwagon, was really excited about the whole submission thing, but they missed everything that her husband said about their role. And so, I found it very interesting how people focused on what Fantasia had to say about submission. The men really loved that part, but they totally missed what her husband had to say in the 6-minute video. So if you only watched the Breakfast Club interview, you was out back.
Right.
You got to see the two together. But even if you just see the one her husband did, that she did with her husband, and listen to the nuggets that he was dropping bombs in that thing to me. And I loved it because it was amazing to hear a man talk about submission in that regard. And he just shared so much. And she talked about on the Breakfast Club, the woman being the neck and how she was mentored, and women was telling her that you're the neck and the man not being able to move his head without the woman. Right. They work together. Yes. And she was right. And so people were talking about, she was like, "Oh, you too busy trying to be a man." She did say that, but you missed the whole point about the neck. And that's true. You are the neck. You can't be the head and the neck. That's not how it works. And so people took a lot of stuff out of context. And I think what was so controversial to a lot of women was when she talked about the generational curse of women being taught to be strong and to be the man in the house. And that's true. She was not wrong, because we've seen this. So many women are having to play dual roles. We especially in African American communities, there are not a lot of 2-parent households. At least I didn't grow up with a lot of 2-parent household examples all the time. And so it's not our job to leave the house, but unfortunately that's what we've seen, and that's what we continue to see in a lot of single parents. And so if you grow up without a father in the house, you're not going to agree with what she had to say, but you can't relate to that. And so I think there was a lot of stuff, and some of the stuff I just was looking like, who hurt you? You know, some of it was just like, baby, who hurt you? Because where did this come from? One girl was like, y'all can't give me advice on nothing because some of y'all in abusive relationships. I'm like, well, where did that come from? Because she ain't talking about that. Who hurt you? And so it's like, I didn't understand. You know, it's not to say that the man does not have this place, because they do. Now, for me, I grew up, again, both my parents divorced, so I grew up with step parents, you know, and so when my pops came along, my mom let him lead as best he could, but there were areas where he couldn't lead. So guess what she had to do? She had to step into that role. So guess what? So even in a 2-parent household, there's occasions where that man don't know how to lead. And so the woman might truly desire for that man to lead so she can submit to his leadership. But if that man don't know nothing about leading a household, or if he can't lead himself, he can't lead your house, or he can lead to a certain point because that's all he knows to do. The woman is still back into a role of leading a certain part of the house that she wasn't, you know what I mean, supposed to be doing. So even in the presence of a father or a man, if he lacks areas where he can't lead, that woman is still right back into that leadership role. But again, I think that's where is, you know, you got to learn to work together and find out those streets, and it's conversation that needs to be had. So I think here's the challenge I think I find out. I want to pose it to you. Why we feel that submission is such a bad word. Like, I mean, you hear the word submission and folks think you done cussed.
Yeah, it is a 4-letter word. Trust me. Yeah. And I think part of what you said already, Dr. H, is the fact that when we grew up, because I know for me, myself, I grew up with my mom and dad up to a point, because when I turned 15, they got divorced. So when we were a, you know, complete family, my dad took on the role of the head of the household, and he provided. And he brought his check home, and my mom did what she did with it and squeezed blood out of a turnip and made sure everybody had what they needed to have. But when we got divorced, because there was that anger there, you know, because of how they got divorced and the things that my dad did. And then, of course, he wasn't there financially. He didn't want to be there financially to help take care of us in the household or whatever. So she had to do a lot of things for herself. So once she had to step into that role, that full role of being the male and the female in the house and providing, there was a lot of anger that came with that. So one of the things I remember her teaching us was, you don't rely on any man. So that whole dependent attitude.
Same message. My mom said the same thing. Same thing. Because you don't know how to take care of yourself. Now you got to figure out how to step into that role and do it when you've already when someone's always been doing that and you trusted them to take care of that. And it was, you don't depend on nobody. You find a way, you make sure you can take care of yourself. And
And so I grew up with that. I grew up, don't depend on a man. They cannot be trusted. They're not going to do what they say they're going to do. And so I was the youngest in my family, so I got it more than, you know, our 2 older siblings. They were already gone by the time this happened. So myself and my sister's 2 years older than us, we grew up in that. And so we were indoctrinated in that. And so that's the mentality and the mindset that we had growing up. And I remember after my divorce, and I was listening to Focus on the Family talk radio show, going to work.
I remember.
And he started talking about submission and what it meant. And he said, I understand that women have an issue with it. He said, but let me explain it to you. Let me give you basically an analogy to help you understand how those roles are supposed to be played out. And he said simply this. He said, God made you partners, right? You're equal. You're joint heirs. You're co-heirs. You were given, you know, this world to subdue. And he said, the only difference is, one, that man is physically stronger than you. He said, but as a leader, the only thing is, it's like a dance. Somebody's got to lead. That doesn't mean any one of those people in the dance is more important than the other one. It's just one of them has to lead.
Yep.
That's it. Everything else is equal. We are all equal. And so I was like, wow. And he said a lot of women are going to have a problem with that because, and you know, receiving this whole idea of submission, because it has been indoctrinated. And I knew that. It resonated with me. And so, you know, then I prayed and I said, God, I don't want to have a an independent spirit, because what he explained too, he said, when you have this independent spirit, then you're not just independent when it comes to men, you're also independent when it comes to God. So you can't even have a dependency on God because you hadn't learned to have a dependency down here on earth. And he said, for your sake,
right,
you have to have a dependent mindset. It is not a lesser position. Right. It is a position. It's a good position. So that was the first eye opener that I had about submission, and my mindset started to change.
Yeah. Listen, I think that, the problem is we've been taught that it's a sign of weakness. Yes. And one of the things is you can be a strong woman and still submit.
Yeah.
Because it has to do with what's in your heart.
Right.
That's a heart condition. And I love the definition that Fantasia's husband gave. He said submission is supposed to be a beautiful song and dance between two lovers. What has happened is men have abused that gift and have been misled to think it means dominance. Oh, my God. Yes. He went on to say that he talked about building himself up as a godly man and staying connected to God, and how that's the right way to lead. I mean, he said so many powerful things, but I don't know why men got so caught up in the submission, whole point of submission, the woman submitting to the man, but missed the point of how he leads. And that's what he was saying. He said, and I was just like, wow. He said, you don't lead from your genitals.
Right.
You lead from a place of understanding. Right. And he was saying how submission is solely about trust. And she talks about submission from the perspective of how the man demonstrates leadership, which makes submission easy. And that's true, because the Bible talks about not submitting to a fool. That's a whole different conversation, show topic, because your decision in men got everything to do with you.
Yeah.
Not dealing with your baggage and your stuff.
Right. Exactly.
The things that you've been taught, but that level of trust. And I think that's why we've been taught that submission is a bad thing, because there's been so much broken trust and pain. That's why I'm like, a lot of the comments I just was like, who hurt you?
Right.
What PTSD do you have about relationships and, and submission? And again, you see a lot of movies when it comes to submission, it does depict dominance. You don't see submission from a perspective of, we're a team, we're a unit, I'm building trust, I'm leading properly, I'm not, it's not from a perspective of, I'm the man, I'm the king of the castle, you're my slave, do what I want to do. Right. And that's kind of been traditionally, unfortunately, what we've seen a lot in movies and television shows, even up to the day, which is why I think there's such a fuel for being independent and having this, independent attitude to where I can get whatever I want as long as I take care of myself. I don't care if that man is married. I don't care about this. I don't care about that. I just want what I got. I just want what I want in that moment, and that's it. So it leads to a lot of other degrading things. So my main thing, the thing is, if you can't submit to yourself, you're not going to submit to anybody else. And so it's do you trust you? Because if you don't trust you, you're not going to trust anybody else. And that person could be like walking on water like Jesus.
Right.
But that trust thing there. So I want to talk about the whole underlying point of what he said about submission really being about trust. What are you doing to cultivate trust in your relationships? And so what are some things that, we can do as people, as individuals, to cultivate trust in relationships? And I would say, even go there, say, before you can cultivate trust in a relationship with another person, you got to cultivate trust within yourself. Because a whole lot of people walking around here don't trust and love, first of all, they don't love, value, and appreciate themselves, let alone trust themselves. And so they look at other people through the lens of the level of distrust they have within themselves, which makes submission even harder.
Absolutely, because they're coming from, if you and that's it's epic what you're saying, because trust is, I think, at the heart of it. And it's so many different levels of trust and relationships of trust. First and foremost, as God said it to me, because after I could get past, what I learned from Focus on Family, then I had to have a conversation with him. And so he kind of softened my heart through that, so that I, had broken up that fallow ground so I could receive what he was saying. And what he was saying was, first and foremost, Deborah, it's about trusting me. You don't trust everybody. See, first and foremost, you cannot submit to everybody. right? Because as Fantasia's husband was saying, as I submit to Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, then I am a good enough person for her to submit to, because she shouldn't be submitting to anything. And God is saying, you don't submit to anything. If he's not submitted to me, then you don't submit to him. If he's submitted to me, then that means I can change him and make him into something good. But if you don't trust me enough to know that I have your good in place, woman of God, then you're not going to be at a place where you can trust a man. But as God gave it to me, he said, I don't want you trusting him, because I said, put your trust in no man, trust me only. I will tell you points in time when you can trust a person, man, be it your husband or a friend or even your parents or whatever. I will tell you by my spirit who you can trust when you can trust them. And so as you are walking with me in relationship with me, putting your trust in me, then I will guide you. First of all, I guide you, and I will give you eyes to see and ears to hear what man should be your husband. And then when you listen to me and you said, okay, I'm gonna accept this man as my husband, you become his wife, then I'm gonna show you what situations you can trust him in, what situations you cannot. But because you went into it with a man that was already submitted to me, because I'm not gonna lead you to a man that's not submitted to me, because you already know he's submitted to me, then you know you can trust him within this relationship. And so that has to be trusting God and then trusting in this husband that God has given you, and continue to walk that walk. But if that trust is not there, this will not work. And the trust is not there a lot of times because of the past hurts. We hurt people. Hurt people, right? So you have men that have been hurt and not have dealt with their stuff. We have, like your show and my show, we're always out there helping women. We're talking to each other. We're counseling each other. We're encouraging each other, empowering each other, giving each other knowledge, wisdom, understanding about how to walk this walk. Men don't have the same thing.
That's right. Well, they don't communicate the same way. It's just the way we're brought up. We're brought up two different ways of thinking and living. Even if you're in the same house with brothers and sisters, the sons are going to get raised and get different advice from the girls.
You know how we said this is how we said in South Georgia. The girls are raised, the boys are spoiled. Because my brother was the oldest, is the oldest. And my brother could leave out the house. Saturday morning we did chores. Every Saturday morning that joker would leave out, not do his chores. I had to do chores. Then he'd come back home. Nobody said anything. They say, what? So they're spoiled and we're raised, right? So they get the freedom to go off and just, it's all about me. So I fully understand why they feel like they're supposed to be lording it over us and dictating whatever, some of them. And because there are some men who, like Fantasia's husband, they got it. They understand. And I'm sure he had to come into that knowledge and wisdom of that. Right? But because he wanted to, because he had submitted to God. And so then the Lord could have a conversation with him and say, you're wrong with that. Let me correct you on your understanding and your mindset about how you do this. This woman is not yours. She is mine. Right?
She don't belong to you.
She don't belong to you. She is mine.
I'm lending her to you. I'm trusting you
as a good thing. So I can give you favor. But if you're not treating her as a good thing, I'm not giving you that favor. If she can't trust you to do it right, then all that comes with her, you're not getting it. But there's, like you said, all that trust that has to happen. She's got to trust herself. She's got to trust the Lord and trust that man that he's given her. But then also we're missing in the all I can speak for is the Black churches, because I grew up with that. Now I'm non-denomination. Now we're multicultural. But growing up, when the foundation got set for me, and I'm so sure for other men, especially my age or older, that foundation got set when you were younger. You had from the pulpit, and you still have from the pulpit, and we've had shows on this one, from the full pulpit, people are teaching people wrong doctrine, right? Because rarely do you hear preachers saying, oh, you're a partner. God made you. If you go back to the word, and I did a study on Genesis, when he made male and female, he made them. He gave it to them to subdue this earth and to rule over this earth. And the only time that changed, Dr. H, was when the curse happened. Then the curse happened, and he said to the woman, now, because before it wasn't the case, now your desire would be for your husband, but he will rule over you. So ruling over only came as a part of the curse.
Right.
Because before, the plan was not for him to rule over her. It was supposed to be partnerships.
Yep.
And after Jesus come and he's reconciled us back to God, now the plan is not for him to rule over us, but it's back to partnership. And that's where we are supposed to be, back in partnership.
I think one of the challenges in developing trust in relationships, specifically within yourself, is peeling back the layers of the walls, all of these different walls and layers that we put up to protect ourselves, when really we're caging ourselves in. Yep. We're keeping ourselves away from everything that we desire or that we say we desire. And so now we build up these walls, and now we're trapped within ourselves with all of our toxic thoughts and all of our toxic behavior. And now when we meet people, we just unleash all of that on other people, and we don't realize that we are the common denominator. It's not everyone else. And so people can't trust us and really don't want to, really fellowship and come into any type of unity. You cannot have koinonia, unity, any type of fellowship with other people if you are toxic. And so a lot of times all of these walls and all these layers that we built up around ourselves have become toxic to us. Right. And so now we don't trust other people because we can't see clearly through all of the layers that we have built over our eyes and over ourselves, and not realizing that once we take all of that down and that mirror is shown to us, we realize that, oh, all of that was me.
Right.
And that's why I don't trust people, because all of that was me. I was projecting all of my mistrust onto other people. Now, that's not to say once you do the work to start trusting yourself and trusting God, that, you know what I'm saying, you won't be led to the right people, or that, you know what I'm saying, that's not going to be tested, because everything in life is going to be tested. We on this 8 billion people on this planet, child, by everybody ain't saved and don't know Jesus. Okay, let's be real. Okay, and they probably won't, there's going to be people who are going to reject him. That's all right. Okay, so, but the reality is, whether you know Jesus or not, trust doesn't have anything to do with Christ.
Right.
To a certain extent. Mm-hmm. If you want to trust yourself, you have to be willing to take up a mirror.
Right.
And really do the hard work to look yourself in the face in the mirror and see yourself as you really are. Peel back all of those layers and come up from out of hiding and say, you know what? Deal with the PTSD of your life. I don't like when people use, oh, this happened in my childhood, so that's why I am the way I am today. You are a grown adult at this point. You need to make decisions right now that you can't keep using what happened to you in the past as an excuse for why you are the way you are right now. Okay, just because you don't like how your grandma submitted or how your mama used to do stuff, okay, or maybe that's how they did and it became PTSD to you, and now you on the opposite end. That don't mean it's right. You got to find a healthy way to deal with what happened to you. And it starts with, listen, if you don't know where to start, invest in a coach, go to counseling. If you are a Christian, go to your church and see if your pastors have counseling available. You can really start peeling back those layers and figure out why you are the way you are, why you do the things you do, so that you can start trusting people. I find that we put a lot of our happiness, our joy, our peace, who we are in somebody else, and that's not somebody else's responsibility. Oh, I'm just looking for somebody to complete me. What universe does that work? And because nowhere, why would you put that much control and power of yourself in somebody else's hands? That don't make no sense. If it ain't Jesus, no, I wouldn't care if I'm married. If it ain't Jesus, and they not submitted to him, I'm not looking for nobody to complete me. It's Christ who completes me. And at the end of the day, that says that you're a dependent. Why would a man want to marry a dependent? He's looking for somebody. What are you bringing to the table? So even though you're submitted to his leadership, he's probably looking for somebody, okay, who can I lead? Because I'm not looking for a dependent. I'm looking for somebody who can help me lead, but I can lead as well. What you bringing to the table, sis, other than hip thighs and some dips?
Because I mean,
y'all can't boil water. I'm not. Let's be real now. I know a sister right now to this day, a Caribbean sister, can't boil water. Her mom to this day still do her laundry. How? But you want a man. What are you offering?
Yeah, if you're realistic and you're saying, hey, I know what God's word says, I've listened to this video that Fantasia husband said, I agree with it or whatever. I agree that it's supposed to be a partnership. So a partnership means there has to be two partners. And each partner has to bring something, and they have to be doing something, and they have to contribute to. And so I think part two of the issue is that people have wrong understandings about what marriage is supposed to be from the beginning, from the offset, right?
Yeah.
Male and female. Some females think, oh, I just supposed to sit home and he's supposed to take care of me. And men thinking, oh, okay, she's supposed to sit home. I'm supposed to take care of him. She's supposed to do everything I say do, like she a little servant girl.
Yep.
And so the understanding about marriage is totally wrong. It's like it's supposed to be a partnership. If you're saying you want to be equal, then you have to bring an equal share to that partnership, right? It can't be, oh, we're equal and he's supposed to treat me as equal, but then he's supposed to do all the work. He's supposed to bring home all the money. He's supposed to come home and cook the food, and I just supposed to sit here and eat bonbons. No. So you got to get right understanding, right? And the word saying always get understanding, get wisdom, knowledge, and understanding.
Right.
What was God's original plan for the male and female role, for the husband and wife role? Once you understand what that original plan was, okay, now what do I need to do? Because if it's supposed to be a partnership, what do I supposed to do? What am I supposed to be bringing to this partnership?
Right.
And consistently bring it. And like you were saying, with your mom and your stepdad, it's like partners mean there's some areas where I'm on point in, and there's some areas where I don't know. There's some areas where he's on point in, and some areas he don't know. And so we're supposed to be coming together, filling the gaps, so that the relationship is a complete relationship. But it can't be a complete relationship if you got two incomplete people bringing it together. Right. You got to be complete in yourself. He's got to be complete in himself. Then you have a complete relationship.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's where we've gone wrong. And again, you hear so much in these movies. Oh, you complete me. Y'all get out of them Harlequin romances and these movies.
Right.
I don't watch romance movies and stuff because it's not real, honey. You mess around and see, you come into relationships with this fantasy mentality, and then some of us are so in love with the idea of relationships and marriage and love that we don't educate ourselves on what it takes to work and a mother. And don't get me wrong, you may have never been a wife and a mother before, but that's why the Bible talks about the older women mentoring the younger. One of the things that was profound to me that Fantasia said in her interview was, I was taught by the mothers of the church, my aunts and all of these people. We don't have the older generation really mentoring the younger generation, mostly because the younger generation got an attitude. You can't tell them nothing. You also, when your grandma 40,
and your mama
20, maybe 30, 20. No, seriously. You got generations that they still living and figuring things out. You know what I'm saying? Because we have a whole generation of teenage mothers. You got television shows dedicated to pregnant at 16 and all of this kind of stuff, glorifying stuff. And so you don't really have a lot of that mentoring that used to happen where you have that wisdom passed down. And so I was glad to hear that wisdom passed down, because I heard that too. You the neck. That man can't do nothing without you.
Right.
What's the head without a neck? Nothing.
Nothing.
What's the neck without a head? A dead body.
Right.
So either way, you still together and oneness, and you still. But again, you just got to make sure you get the right head on the right neck, and vice versa. Why? Otherwise, you got a big old head on a small neck. You got a bobblehead. You know what I'm saying? Like it. Think about it. You know what I'm saying? Them bobblehead don't make right. And a small head. It's like what? Or you got that thing like Beetlejuice, with just all different kinds of things. Why? Because that's a sign of dysfunction. Somebody somewhere along the way engaged in a relationship with somebody they weren't compatible with, that they weren't prepared for, because they didn't understand the role, or didn't understand their role as an individual in a relationship. And again, it goes back to, are you submitted to yourself? Do you trust yourself? What relationship do you have with yourself? I used to have an employee who said she didn't know how to love herself. She didn't know how to date herself. She don't know how to go out and have fun by herself without a man paying for it. I was like, so you don't go out with your girlfriend? She was like, really? And I was like, how do you know what you like and what to say, what to look for in a man, if you don't love yourself and take yourself out and find out what you like to do and what you don't like to do? Oh, I just like to go eat. Well, what kind of things do you like to eat? Where do you want to go? Like, you got to expose yourself to stuff. And that was strange to me, but that let me know that there are people out there who really think that way. And so, again, you don't know what you bring to the table because you can't even communicate what you like.
Right.
And you're in a relationship and you're trying to figure it out along the way. That's not. So a lot of times I think we don't do the work that we need to do to prepare for relationships. And that's why I'm saying, like, peel back them layers, sis.
Right. Yeah, because it makes a difference.
It's not a bad thing, but you got to peel back those layers of you.
Right. Yeah, you got to own your stuff, right? Because, I mean, we all want what we want. But, you know, what God says in his word, he says, don't think I'm delaying this. I'm not delaying it. I'm not delaying the promise, right? It's not, you're not ready, basically. If I'm not letting it come to fruition because you're not ready. I don't want you to miss it. And I remember him having a conversation with me, and he says, I'm holding up because I'm divorced. So, and I've been divorced this as of right now, 20 years. Wow. And so I'm like, okay, God, what's going on? And he said, I'm delaying it for a reason because I'm working on you. And one of the things he worked on me was with that self-love. You know, I was born into rejection. So I'm coming from a family environment of rejection. Yes, so if you're rejected from the people who are supposed to love you most, then, like you said earlier, you're projecting. You're projecting not just distrust, but you're projecting rejection back on the people. So you have relationships not working out because you're not a healthy person going into the relationship. They're never gonna work out. You're sick and you hadn't got healing yet, so it's not gonna work out. So as I'm saying, okay, God, what's taking so long? It's been 20 years, or before it became 20 years. It's like it's about to be 20 years now. What we doing? And he said, trust me. And that's when he gave me scripture, and he was like, trust me, I'm holding this thing up. And the reason he said it, he said, because if I brought him now, you're going to project rejection back on him. And he's going to call Taylor.
You hurt people.
Hurt people.
And you can mess somebody else's life up. And again, and that's how submission becomes a cuss word to people, because you're damaged. And so you project that damage onto other people. Now this person is damaged. And so now they don't want to submit. And now it creates a whole spiral cycle. And that's how sometimes it's generational, because you had a problem with it, and the one before you, 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 and now you got, you know what I'm saying? And so again, until you do that work to really become whole as an individual and know how to work through your triggers.
Yes.
I think one of the reasons why submission is also a bad thing to people is because what they've been taught and seen wrong about submission is now a trigger.
It is.
And they don't know how to deal with those triggers because they won't go to counseling or get you a coach or whatever to talk about those things.
Exactly.
And I don't know how many times I can say this. Counseling is not a bad word. That's not a cuss word. But I grew up in the community. In the black community, black folks don't go to counseling. That's for white folks. That's how I grew up. That's what
I grew up the same way.
We don't go to no counseling. That's white folks. They crazy. We not crazy. But the reality is, you doing more than yourself. Thinking that way. You need to get what's up here out so you can realize how ridiculous your thoughts are, because your thoughts shape who you are. Your thoughts shape your reality. As a man thinks, so is he. And so where's the dysfunction coming from? What's up here? How is it getting up there? By what you see, hear, all the things that you're exposed to.
Right. And then those limited beliefs that got, projected onto you, right? That you were taught growing up. Like for me, the rejection, it's going to be hard. So what I taught was, it's going to be hard. Boys only want you for one thing.
Yep.
They don't really want any. They want to either get your body or they want to get your money. Yep. One of the others. That's all they want. And all they do is lie and all, so you grow up with these limited beliefs, and we don't even realize it until, like you said, you go to counseling, you get a coach, you get with the Lord, and you get a relationship with him where he can download, and you're spending some good quality time with him, because none of this stuff can happen overnight. It cannot. Right? So you got to have the right mindset. You got to have the right heart set to be able to receive from God and hear him say, okay, we got some work to do, and allow him to do that, and not, push against that, but allow him to do that. And feel okay that you're not perfect, because you're not. None of us are perfect. No, not one of us. So when he's starting to say, hey, we need to work on some stuff, receive that. Because the quicker you receive it And the quicker you let him work on it, the quicker he can move you past. Trust me, I am a witness. So we have moved past a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. But that came from letting go pridefulness and arrogance and saying, you know, I don't know it all. Right. And then letting those old traditional ways of dealing with things, the old mindsets, the old limiting beliefs, letting that go and saying, you know what, Lord, I want to do something new. I don't want to keep doing what we always do, what Mama and them always did. And
that's
you know, pushing stuff underneath the rug and shoving it under the rug time and time again. I want to be better because I realize I've been doing some jacked up stuff in relationships. So
Right. Well, y'all, I'm telling you, we had some great stuff that we have covered today about submission and that Fantasia interview with she and her husband. If you have not seen it, it is from, I believe, September 21st. Go out there. It's on YouTube. Listen to 6-minute video, very powerful, some great stuff. And I really think that, again, deal with yourself and stop trying to put all of who you are in somebody else. That is dangerous.
Yes.
It is foolish.
Yes.
And that is not God. That is God. There's nothing that says put everything who you are into a man, a person. You know what I mean? We're supposed to be so hidden in God that man is searching for his good. You know what I mean? So if you so wrapped up in God, trust me, in taking care of you, and if you not saved, listen, you still got to be so wrapped up in your own self-development, your growth, and what you are bringing to the table. Y'all have heard me say this before. I'm not preparing a table. All the things that I enjoy to just let any joker sit at my table. I just anybody sitting at my table. I don't care if I'm dating you or if this is a platonic friendship. I'm intentional about my relationship. So if I got this table spread with everything that I enjoy in life, everybody's not going to be exposed to it because I put in the work to bring this here. I know what I'm bringing to the table, baby, and I'm making sure whether it's in friendship or intimate relationship, you worthy of sitting at that table.
Absolutely.
You got to get to that point, ladies, to where you have that mindset that, oh, I ain't letting just anybody sit at my table. This. I put in some work. It's some good stuff at this table, honey. This ain't no them frozen little 1 ounce lobster tails that you can get. Baby, I went to Maine and had this flown in.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you get to that point, you know that oh, you start sizing folks up based on the standards you created for that table that you got spread out, laid out, ready for somebody to sit and dine out. And now you can say, you're worthy to dine at my table. Absolutely. I invite you to sit and be exposed to what I have to offer. And you know that you got something that you bring it to the table. Oh no, you screening people completely different. I ain't saying be harsh and rigid and be prideful. That is not what we're saying. But I'm saying when you know you did the work to be the best version of you possible, and you know you bringing something to the table, you don't just let any joker.
And you know what? Let me tell you what God told me about that one, and it blew my mind on this. And He said, "You're not your own. Right? My word tells you, you were bought with a price." He said, "I paid for you." Jesus said, "I paid for you with my life." God said, "I paid for you, and I sacrificed my son through my son." You do not belong to yourself. So you can't give yourself to nobody. They have to pass my standards. You belong to me. I'm the only one can give you to anybody. And if he is not willing to pay the cost, he's not willing to give up something, whether it's his pride, his arrogance, his old dirty ways, or his old crazy mindsets about things, if he's not willing to give up something for you and pay a cost, a bride price is what he said. That's paying the bride price when he's giving up something. He said, so you don't get to decide what man is going to sit at that buffet table. I get to decide it, right? By my standards. So I said, oh, okay. He said, because when he gets you, if he ain't getting you and seeing you as a good thing, then I'm not giving that favor over to him, because you come with favor.
Right.
You come with favor.
And you got to know you packing it.
And everybody can't get all that, because you're not graced for everybody. You're graced for the one that God says you're graced for, right? So Good
That's
stuff.
all for today, ladies. You've been on the mic with Dr. Ace, the Global Mentor Coach. Thank you, Ms. Deborah Warren, for joining me to talk about that Fantasia interview submission and so much else going on, dealing with us as women, as individuals, so that we can be respectable and respectful women. And I'm just telling you, y'all drop me some comments about submission today. You know, how many of you still think it's a bad thing? What were you taught about submission? Were you ever taught about it? You know, maybe this is your first exposure to it, and that's why what she was saying, they were saying, was so strange to you.
Right.
What did that look like growing up for you? I really want to hear from you guys about this. This might be a part 2, I don't know, but I really want to, you know, want us to get a handle on it, because we can't have healthy relationships until we are healthy and whole ourselves. So if there's some topics that you'd like to hear, or if you need a coach to help you achieve your goals, send an email to me at info@globalmentorcoach.com. Again, that's info@globalmentorcoach.com. Thanks so much for listening. Keep it sexy, classy, and modest as you spread lots of love and light. Have a fantastic night. See y'all.
Bye.